Hello and welcome to the Whosoever Book Club. Today we're going to be talking about Lelsey Newbigin's The Gospel in a Pluralistic Society. But it's been chosen by my special guest today, and we're going to welcome back Guy. Guy is a really good friend of ours that we met in Catford. How have you been, Guy, since last time we spoke on the book club?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yeah, I've been well, thank you. Yeah, things ticking over in Catford. It's been good.
Guy, what do you know about Lelsey Newbigin?
Yeah, so what I know about Lelsey is that he was born in 1909. That he grew up. He went to Oxbridge University, and then I think he became a Christian at university, and then he went off to India and spent several decades as a missionary living in India. And then he came back to the UK, and he realized that the UK was no longer a Christian society. It was becoming increasingly post-Christian. And he then wrote books like this one, The Gospel in a Pluralist Society, to help the church think through what it means to be a church in a increasingly non-Christian society.
Yeah. Excellent. So, what kind of themes then did you pick up in the book? What really was sticking out to you as the real important key points?
Yeah. So he starts the book about talking about the roots of pluralism. So how did we become a pluralistic society? And he goes back to the 18th century and the time of the Enlightenment, where there became it was a skeptical age, and it was an age where people started believing less in traditional beliefs like belief in God and religion, and we're thinking more about human reason. So famously, the French philosopher Descartes, "I think, therefore I am."
Yes, he spends a lot of time kind of unpicking that, doesn't he, in the book? And it goes over a couple of chapters, really, doesn't it? He keeps referring back to that one premise.
That's right. Which isn't all bad that happened. There were lots of good aspects of it, because arguably before the Age of Enlightenment, particularly Western society, there was quite a lot of superstition, maybe. And with the rise of the Enlightenment, was the rise of science, a lot of progress. So lots of good things about it. But one of the effects was that belief in God kind of reduced and belief in human ability increased. Right. Yeah. And along with that, what Lelsey Newbigin argues is that along with the rise of pluralism and the less belief in God becomes lots of unexamined beliefs and assumptions. So, for example, the autonomy of human reason, so that human reason alone can determine truth and morality without reference to God.
Yes.
The privatization of belief. So religious or faith claims belong only in private life and should have no public role, and so on. So there are these assumptions that have arisen, which Lelsey Newbigin says we need to gently, lovingly question. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did really enjoy that bit of the book where he was looking at that and kind of, I suppose, picking around the corners. So we were just talking before we started, picking around the corners of that idea of truth, and actually, when you think about it, that's where kind of everything started going wrong, even in the Bible story.
Mm.
So we look at Adam and Eve, and what is the temptation? What is the thing they go to grasp for themselves? The ability to judge right and wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of trusting God to teach them how to do it through relationship, they tried to grasp it by eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
And
It's
that
the
kind of
age-old problem.
goes to kind of that original sin, that fundamental problem that
Yeah.
we encounter as a human race over and over again, that desire to put ourselves in God's position
Yeah.
as judge.
Yeah. Yeah. And then therefore, in a pluralistic society, we end up saying, there's no absolute universal truth.
Yeah.
The only truth is that there is no truth.
Yes.
And therefore every truth claim is valid.
Which makes the word truth untrue.
Yeah.
Because truth as by definition is exclusive
Yeah.
to other things, but actually if you're saying all things are true at the same time, then actually nothing is true. And I suppose really as well, years ago, he makes a good point about it being a creeping thing. It's not something that happened overnight, was it? And that it's like the frog in the pot.
Yes.
You put him in a pot of boiling water and he'll jump out and make a fuss. But actually, if you put him in and gradually warm the water up, he won't notice he's being boiled to death.
Yeah, that's quite right. It's quite right. And Lelsey Newbigin does a great job at defending the Christian truth and saying what we were saying earlier, that it can be tested. It should be tested. It should be investigated. So as Christians, we don't want to force Christianity on anybody. All we want to do is have the opportunity to tell people the Christian gospel, read the Bible with them, and let people make their own mind up.
Yes.
But the problem is, in an increasingly secular, pluralistic society, that's kind of pushed out. It's because what they say is your belief, your religious belief, that's your private, that's part of your private life. That's not for public life. So we don't want it in schools. We don't want it in the government. It's sidelined increasingly.
Yes.
But as Christians, we want to stand in the public square and say, no, actually, that we believe there is a universal truth, a universal story, and we're going to continue to trying to find the right word, but we don't think it should be sidelined, and therefore we would like to take every opportunity to share that universal truth and story in any way we can.
Yeah. And I suppose even in our own, I'm not saying that we're old, because I don't think, I don't think I'm fairly old, but other people probably do. But we've seen it in our own lifetime. Like, we only look at the experience in schools now. You were talking about schools. I can remember back in Canada being very young and them having the Lord's Prayer over the thing and acts of worship and things like that, which, by the time I got into secondary school, that had kind of been wiped out and seen as inappropriate. And
the way that I understand it is that science tells us how the world was created.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us why the world was created. And this is one of secularism's, pluralism's doctrines that Newbigin he wants to challenge the materialistic view of reality. So matter is all that there is. Science explains everything. Hold on, that is a truth claim. That needs to be investigated. I think we all know there's more to life than what we just see. I think most people think that, actually. So to say that all that we see, matter, is all that there is, that's a big claim that our pluralistic secularist society is making. And actually, with the rise of pluralism, there hasn't been a decrease in spirituality. There's just been lots of different spiritualities. So like the occult, Eastern religions, they're increasingly popular, because people, as humans, we are body and spirit. So just living in a purely materialistic framework doesn't work for us. Definitely. That's right.
How did you think about the way he examines science to kind of look at this idea of truth, to open the reader's idea? So even if somebody perhaps might not be a person of faith who's reading the book, he opens it up to actually say, well, actually, if we look at science, there is a lot of intuition. There is inspiration. There is creativity. Those things aren't facts. Those things are feelings. Those things are reactions. And he quotes Einstein and other people that kind of point to this idea that actually science is not as fixed as we today tend to cling to it as being fixed. But he uses that to kind of contrast it against the way faith claims are made, and how the one is accepted as a truth, and the other, but actually saying, are we not actually approaching these two things in the very same way?
Right. Yeah. And are you saying that we should approach them in the same way?
I'm not saying that we should approach them in the same way, but I think what I'm saying is that actually we're happy to say that for years and years they were happy to say that the sun rotated around the earth. And it took time, and people had a hard time trying to show it, but eventually we came to understand that the earth revolves around the sun.
The Copernican revolution. Yes. Yeah.
And that actually these things that we're clinging to, and I think it's human nature that we want some things to be solid, don't we? Because otherwise life just feels totally out of control. But the things we often cling to are not as solid as we think. But the truth that has remained the truth from the beginning of the creation to what eventually the end of creation is that God created the world, that God made human beings to have relationship with them, and that we can have a relationship with him that leads beyond what we currently experience into something more.
Definitely. Yeah, he does a great job of that. Absolutely brilliant job of that.
The claims of the Bible are timeless truths, where actually the science we're seeing is a changing understanding.
Yeah. Constantly being updated and revised, and that's so true. And I think we need, as Christians, we need to be saying that more, helping our fellow human beings question all of the beliefs and assumptions that underpin modern secularism. Because and apparently I've heard, there's this in the new generation. Is it the Gen Y or Gen Z generation? There's a kind of quiet revival because they're not content with the narrative that they're being told, the secular narrative. And so they're examining the Christian faith. And what he does a great job of in this book is helping us as a church think about what it means to be a missionary church. So in the West in particular, we've got used to being part of the social fabric,
Yes.
accepted and assumed.
Yeah.
But increasingly, we are being marginalized. If in a pluralistic society, there's no one truth claim that is, above others. So we're becoming increasingly part of lots of different truth claims.
Yeah.
And we, in London, we see that, you really feel that. Living in London, you're just so aware of so many different religions here, people from all different countries. Like Christianity is one of many sort of religions on offer.
Yes.
You're much less, you feel like that a lot less if you're in the countryside. In the countryside, particularly in the UK, still traditional church in most villages, but in the city it's much less like that. It's increasingly pluralistic. And what Lelsey Newbigin does really well, he helps us to think through what it means to be a church in that kind of setting. And it goes back. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, what were the particular things then that you would take away from the advice that he gave?
Yeah, great question. So I'm looking at chapter 11, mission, word, deed, and new beginning. So he says we must not put a wedge between proclaiming the gospel and doing good works.
Okay.
As the churches, we need to do both. So you and I were involved in a food bank in Catford. That's a great thing. It's a great way to serve our neighbours, provide them with physical food. But at that food bank as well, we were able to offer prayer to the clients, and have Christian literature out if they wanted to take it, because it's not just their physical needs we're seeking to meet, we're also their spiritual needs. So that's one way he talks about as missionary churches. We need to proclaim, we need to be like holistic, we need to proclaim the gospel and show good works, or do good works at the same time.
And I think that is a really big important element, combining those two things, because actually because people will find it more difficult to dismiss us if what we're saying matches what we're doing. They can all of a sudden see that it's no longer just an idea or a concept or a great way of thinking that makes people feel good, but actually in practical ways it does make the world better and it changes people's lives.
That's right. Yeah. And he talks about contextualization, so contextualizing the message. So coming alongside people in a different culture to ourselves, and presenting the gospel to them in a way they can understand.
Yes.
And that's a missionary mindset. It's not assuming they can understand.
And I think that goes back to the point I was trying to make before around the idea of truths that you hold on to and other things that we can hold on more loosely to. So it's more important to know that God loves you than it is that they read that in the King James Version.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So contextualization is taking the message and finding a way, either through actions and through words and through imagery and other things, that they are going to be able to relate to understand the overall truth.
That's the
rather than it having to be the literal authorized version or sticking to rigid perhaps traditions more than actual beliefs.
With Western Christians going out in sort of the 19th century as missionaries to other parts of the world, they were having to learn this. I think of Hudson Taylor, who went to China,
Yes.
and up till then, missionaries were sort of building their European churches in China and expecting the Chinese to come to their church and dress like them. But Hudson
Yes.
Taylor took the radical step of dressing like a Chinese person in a robe, wearing a hat and having a pigtail,
Yes.
and going out and being like them, being like the Chinese
Yes.
people. And then he was able to, and learning their language, and then he was able to present the gospel to them, because Newbigin argues that all cultures have things we can affirm.
Yes.
But all cultures also have things that need to be challenged.
Yes.
So no
Even
culture
our own.
is better or worse than the other. They all have good things and bad things about them.
Yeah.
So yeah, being a contextual missionary church will bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this is perhaps where there's a big danger around what we're seeing more recently in terms of Christian nationalism. That there is a danger in which being of a certain nation somehow makes you Christian, and that somehow the fundamental of that national identity has become so tied up with the idea of being Christian that you just try and impose everybody being British or being American or being Canadian, or, you know, rather than what you're saying about taking the truth and allowing people to experience it in their own culture, and yes, challenging the things that aren't right.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah, agree with that. Yeah.
So are there any, before we move into the what worked for you and what didn't, are there anything else you want to flag up that really stuck out to you or that you found profound in the book?
He talks towards the end of the book. He talks about the congregation as hermeneutic of the gospel. So he talks about the church being sort of a shop window for God's kingdom. And yeah, so I like that idea, but being church leaders ourselves and having been in the church for a few decades, we're aware of how hard work church can be at times, and that we are weak, and you know, but I still like, and I think it is biblical that God is building his church in this world as a sort of alternative society, as a sort of counter cultural society. And as Christians we mustn't forget how attractive that is actually, in a world that's so often harsh and brutal. The church is sort of the city on a hill. It's God's outpost, and it's, you know, where he's saying come to the church, and that's where God resides, and where you'll find God's love, God's community. So I do like that. I thought that was profound. I liked it. It's something I'm praying and hoping that my church I'm involved in will be more and more like that. Will be an attractive counter culture. I think that's why it's so important. And this is perhaps where more liturgical churches perhaps have a good aspect of liturgical church, which neither of us come from a liturgical tradition where we are at the moment. Have it right in terms of praying the Lord's Prayer, because actually what is right at the beginning of the Lord's Prayer? Your kingdom come.
your will be done. And we can only be those attractive churches if not we're creating, we're allowing God to create an atmosphere where his kingdom is exampled.
Amen. Yeah, that's what we long for.
Yeah, definitely. So what really worked for you about the book?
Yeah, what really worked for me, I loved it. I love this book. It's scratching where I'm itching.
Okay.
Because being in Londoner now since December 2012, so 14 years, what has struck me about being in London is how secular and pluralistic it is. I'm a country boy myself, and I love living in London, but it is super challenging in terms of one's own faith, because one has to accept that, hold on, we're a minority here. Like Christians, we're a minority. You know, we're not the dominant.
Yes.
We're not the dominant force here. We're the minority. And he really speaks into that. And he sort of explains where that's coming from. He unearths secularism, and he says actually secularism's got lots of holes in it that as Christians we need to be highlighting. And Christ is still on the throne. He's still Lord of history. We've still got a message to proclaim and to live out. So don't back down. Don't give up. I don't know how you find it, Michael, but I find in living in London it can be quite like, whoa, these secular forces and other religions, they can seem so powerful that I'm just like,
I think it's fair to say that there are a number of people in the church, especially those who might, perhaps like us, might identify more with the traditional views of Christianity. Do find it hard sometimes to speak out, because you just feel like if you say the wrong thing, everything will come down on you like a load of bricks. But definitely his book. Interestingly, the book was written a few years ago, wasn't it? By if he's born in 1900, so we're talking about the 80s. And yet it seems more relevant today than probably it was in the 1980s. Because we've seen that pluralism just grow. So definitely a book for its time. Or a book for this time.
Definitely.
Which is great. Anything you found challenging about it?
I mean, it's pretty academic. It's quite thick. It's a few hundred pages. And he goes quite deep. So at times I found it quite hard to follow. So for anyone reading it, just heads up on that I wouldn't say it's an particularly easy read. It's quite challenging to read, and I had to really sort of be disciplined in terms of reading it through, and it's quite long. So how many chapters? There's, I think, 16 chapters or so. No, 20 chapters. So getting through it was quite an effort. I found quite an effort.
I would say, if I were to say a good thing and a bad thing, it would probably be the same thing. And I think it derives because he's incredibly thorough. He's very thorough in his argument. He really takes time to develop it. But at the same time, because he's so thorough, as you said, in terms of the academic sense, sometimes I found myself having to read the same line a couple of times just to totally solidify in my head what it is he was saying.
And he quotes very deep Christian thinkers like, I think, Berkhoff, and a few others. So he's clearly a highly intelligent man, and at times it's just trying to keep up with him.
But if you're not necessarily on the same level,
Yeah,
it can be a little bit of a challenge.
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, excellent. What are you going to take away then?
What am I going to take away? Yeah, just I think his final chapter is confidence in the gospel. So I think takeaway is to keep believing the Christian gospel is true and is for everyone. To recognise that we are in a secular, pluralistic age, and that's not all bad. It's it's a bit like going back to the first century. The church then, the early church, was in a similar society, and the gospel took root and it exploded.
Yeah,
So it's not all bad.
no.
The,
In one way, I think it does make the field for evangelism more ripe, because there are so many ideas. People are more willing to listen. The challenge is then getting them to see that this isn't just one amongst many. This is the one.
Yeah.
But actually, that initial step of getting people to listen and to want to show an interest gets slightly easier, because you get a society where people are open to hearing different ideas.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's our hope and prayer, that our society continues to allow that. You know, in the West, particularly in the UK, we've got a wonderful history of toleration, of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And long may that continue. You know, we don't want to force Christianity on anyone. We just long for the opportunity.
Yes.
To make it known to people so that they can make their own decision.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That what you're saying there reminds me of a saying I heard quite a few years ago. You're never going to argue anybody into heaven, but we can love people into heaven, and it is that, and you know, as you said before, he does make the point. It's not just arguing to win an argument. You know, it is living that life that loves them and shows them, so they feel it and realize it for themselves. And obviously, you know, we can't ignore by any means the power of the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
You know, because he's the one who brings transformation.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us for the discussion, Guy. It's really good to see you. We must arrange to meet up and have a coffee sometime soon.
Definitely.
And just have a normal catch up. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for anyone who's read along. Thank you for reading. If you haven't read the book yet, but the discussion is perked your interest, please go out, read the book. It is a really good book. Take your time with it, you know, let it sink in, and just let God speak to you through Lelsey Newbigin and what he has to say to us through this book. So please like and subscribe. It always helps to get the book club out there, so that we've not just that we have more listeners, but there's more people part of the conversation, because the whole reason we have the book club is to help create that opportunity for having conversations about faith, which I think are so important. So thanks again, Guy, and we will see you next month, and we will let you know very soon what book it is that we will be looking at then. Okay, thank you and God bless. Bye.